New on this week, new. Did you read Wolverine?
Oh, Django, I'm so glad that we've got plenty of time here this morning to talk about Wolverine.
Number 1.
Dawn of X, Wolverine by Benjamin Percy. This is a 63-page issue, so if there was any illusion that you were going to get in and out of this like I thought I was at first, let me shatter that.
It's not short like Wolverine.
It's a big old book.
It's long like his claws.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And laced with adamantium like his bones. That makes it sound like I didn't love this. I actually really liked this, to the point where I thought halfway through it, like, I've got to look into Benjamin Percy. Like, who is this guy?
Yeah, what else did he write?
Well, he's doing X-Force. I haven't looked into it. If I were a more responsible comic book pundit, I would have looked into it, but I have not yet.
That's one of my favorite of the X-Men books. I dropped off most of them, but I liked X-Force.
And, like, Adam Kubert did this. Andy, I think, does more DC stuff.
Yeah.
I much prefer Adam Kubert's art.
I like them both a lot. This Adam Kubert looks a lot like Greg Capullo in here to me, and
I think
Bogdanovic looks a lot like Kubert.
Yeah, I didn't think that much about the first one, but yeah, the second half of this story with Viktor Bogdanovic doing the art, it's to the point where I thought that, like, they've got to have the same inker, or maybe this guy used to be the inker for Capullo, and he's now doing his own art. Like, it's off-putting almost.
I double-checked the credits like 3 times while I was reading it.
Well, and that's, fortunately they have a whole, like, 2 entirely separate credit pages in this issue, because it was 2 basically 30-page issues.
Yeah, it was an interesting way to set it up, because at the end, like, you get to the end of the first story and you're like, okay, how are they gonna fill the rest of this? Like, I was expecting cover galleries and stuff, and it turns out there's a whole other comic in there.
Yeah, I think it is a pretty good way of putting a first issue out like this, because my feeling is maybe that they'll be having 2 parallel stories going on with artists doing separate parts.
Right.
So instead of, like, having 2 issues and then jarringly switched, introducing both separate stories in this, I think is a really good call. I really liked it. One of the things I like so much about it is that I think its reach just barely exceeds its grasp.
Yeah.
I think that it was, like, there was some pretty rough transitions and jumps. I thought it was a kind of hard to follow comic.
Yep.
But I would rather that than it be dull or rote or by the numbers, and I don't think it was that.
Yeah, I liked the how kind of angry and scared Wolverine is of Omega Red, and I usually don't like vampire stories, but the second story had a really good version of vampires, and I like the science behind it.
Yeah, I was a little bit bummed when it became vampires, because much like the pantheon of, like, Greek gods or Thor, I keep comic continuity sort of separate than, like, fantasy, like, other elements. So, but I really liked the way that they incorporated that into just the Krakoan, what's going on over there.
Right.
How vampires would want to be using Wolverine's blood. I really like Ben Percy's ability to extrapolate the Krakoan medicine, and he's created a sort of underground drug culture from it. And that is, like, immediately I was like, oh yeah, duh. Like, of course this isn't gonna just be a medical thing. This is gonna be a thing that people are gonna want to use recreationally for drugs. So a lot of really good ideas, a lot of great art. I love the Omega Red stuff because I love that character. It was so interesting to me that in the final issue of, like, House or Powers, they did those teaser variants, and one was Omega Red coming out of the thing.
And here it is.
Weird for that to be followed up in this book.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's clearly been cooking for a while, and yeah, it's top of the list for me for the Dawn of X stuff. I think that its return on the promise of House of X and Powers of X is greater than most of the other series so far. So I'm very into it.
I read Joe Hill's Plunge with Stuart Immonen on art. This is, well, first of all, it's got a Jaws reference.
Okay.
Which I think Joe Hill is just a big Jaws fan.
Yeah, that's true.
Because Basket Full of Heads is all about Jaws. And this follows a crew that has been tasked by an oil company to go rescue a ship that disappeared in 1987. And it's mostly just sort of setting up the ship characters. Joe Hill's really good at that, and there's a ton of text in here, but it just kind of pulls you through. And then the cliffhanger at the end is terrifying.
Okay.
So yeah, it sets you up in a very real world situation with horror on the very, very fringes, and then it just kind of pushes that horror knife right in at the end.
That Joe Hill, Stephen King, those boys love the East Coast of the country.
Yeah,
you know, like
scary story.
Yeah, but like throw Jaws in there. I don't know. It's Maine. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I thought Stuart Immonen, like maybe was retiring from comics as of a year and a half ago. So I love to see him in here.
He's doing a real bad job of being retired.
Unless I'm mixing him up with somebody else, but I thought that like his run on Spider-Man was going to be his final one, he had said, with Dan Slott. So I think he's one of the most talented comic artists doing comics now. I'm glad he's still doing them.
Yeah, he's great.
This is one, Bang, #1 by Matt Kindt, that I'm pretty excited about. Didn't get a chance to read it last night.
It's great.
Yeah,
It's,
no surprise.
it's James Bond, but with some sort of like resurrection trick. So in the beginning, we meet this like standard white dude, James Bond, who gets shot in the head right away, and then somebody with the same name and the same kind of action characteristics shows up, but it's a black dude, obviously a totally different person, and they're trying to solve this crazy meta thing. They're trying to find a book that's got like Illuminati triggers and all kinds of, like, it hits every one of my buttons.
The Illuminatus.
Yeah, it's great.
So this book, he kind of implied that it was going to link up the larger body of work that he's had. Is that present in this issue?
I don't know,
Okay.
because I think that interview that you're talking about that was in
Yeah.
the back of all the Dark Horse comics for a month or so,
Yeah.
I think that was part of the meta game that's happening inside of Bang.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got to read this and then reread that interview, and it will unanswer a lot of questions you had.
Well, yeah, I'm very excited to do that, but on top of all that being like, I loved getting into Stephen King books, realizing that he's kind of had this thread of a through-line villain or evil force in it. Our store loves Matt Kindt. Like, Grass Kings is one of the few books that almost everyone that works here, it was one of their favorite books coming
Everybody
out.
loved it,
Black
yeah.
Badge is fantastic. So I don't know that in the larger comic culture outside of our store, I don't know that his name is as big as it seems like it should be given our enthusiasm for it. So
Yeah.
I hope that this one kind of links that up and also gets his name out there a
It's
little bit
excellent.
more. Yeah.
I think everybody should read this, and Grass Kings and Black Badge,
Yeah.
and et cetera, et cetera.
The other ones that I can't think of right now, Mind Management. Yeah, Super
yeah.
Spy. Did you read Flash Forward #6?
I dropped off a Flash Forward at #4, I think, so I'm an issue behind.
That totally justified, because there's a lot of evidence to support the fact that Scott Lobdell isn't the coolest dude.
Yeah.
So I did keep reading this because you know what it is, Django? I love this Tempest Fusionaut character.
That's why I quit. I
Yeah.
couldn't stand him.
I get that. I don't think that it's like, here's the most compelling new character we've got. It's so big and dumb, and like, I just kind of love tracking where he's going. It's just like the character design is so over the top. It's all this multi-dimensional guardian of the dark universe, like just dumb. But anyway, at the end of this, spoilers everyone, Wally West sits down in the Mobius chair and inherits the powers of Dr. Manhattan.
And is that because Dr. Manhattan has imbued the Mobius chair with his essence?
Yeah, essentially the same man who touched the chair shares his power with the chair. Like, so...
Okie dokie.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'll
Whatever.
let it happen.
Sure, Scott. But also then the funny thing is the adventure continues in Flash 750.
Oh,
They
gonna
got
jump
us.
forward in time.
They thought like DC's putting out these like anniversary issues that don't really exist with decade covers, trying to get stores to order more and more of them. And this is the first one where like, I think we can be a little conservative with the order. And
then bang.
Nope, a big continuity thing's gonna happen in there. So after we finish this and before we open the bird up, I'm gonna have to go and place an order for a couple more Flash 750s.
Oh man.
Because I think it's gonna be a bigger thing.
I'm in.
Yeah. It was a really like, Wolverine really took a minute to get through because it was such a big comic, and I read a handful of other things, but nice to be back on the side of like really good weeks of comics.
Oh yeah, the last two have been great.
Yeah, I had like a 20-book stack yesterday, so.
We have a bird.
Yes.
Should we open it?
Absolutely, we should. It's Wednesday.
Let's open this bird up.
Let's go see all of our good buddies.
All right.